Why John Wick could never fail? First one, Keanu Reeves. Second one, Keanu Reeves. Third one, the directors. Well, we all know that there's two directors who have been doing part one and part two so far is still not out. And they're still the one directing it, so how can this movie fail? Well, there's only one format that they can fail. It's the story, the progression of the story, because after part 1 and 2 the story has not been moving so far, and that's the only reason that this movie could fail. It could become too bland that there's only actions and no other progression, because that's the problem for every action film, that the story or any background story from for the other characters are never developed, only the main characters, and sometimes the main characters doesn't get any story, just fighting all the way until the end of the movie. So that's the only problem that Chan Wick could ever face. And by the way, for part 1 and part 2 there's still no story of how John Wick did of the favor of making the organization international for some reason. We still don't know. So I hope that they try to expand this maybe in part 3, or if possible they can show it on part 3, maybe at part 4, because we already know there's going to be a part 4 for John Wick, because Parabellum is still just action packed and not so much on the story, unlike the first one where we're introduced to John Wick losing his puppy, the only remembrance or memory of the one he loves. Then after part 2 we just kinda lost the reason why John Wick is doing this for, and somehow the director just thought about, hey, why don't we pull out a character from the past again and just tell him that you're not out, you're just going back for the only reason that you made a favor on doing the mission for making the organization whole, and it's going to bite you at the back for some reason. Because we gotta remember that the reason there's only an international continent was because of him. So how can there be some pact if they the organization of the continent didn't exist before that? So what was the reason for that? It's kind of a loophole on part two. Maybe just the directors wanting to get a story out of it. But this time part 3 should have a literal great story. It must not have a plot hole again, because part 2 has a big plot hole that they should explain. Because how can you give get a promise of something if the continent didn't exist from that time that he was trying to make it internationally known? So that's the only problem that Chanwick could really go, because the story is a mess a lot of times, and I tried to understand it. I know I understand some of the parts, but most of the time this is not really great for them. If they try to introduce characters with a glimpse of a few words, then just go up the action again. So only problem with John Wick, because the only problem with every action genre is just storylines and how to progress it. So I hope if part 3 doesn't introduce how this happens, or maybe just part 4, please just give us the whole story of how John Wick really did it, because I don't want to read any fan theories on how John Wick really did the continent a favor and just wanted to retire after that. Okay, And I hope YouTube subscribe. Please, I would love subscribers right now. I'm only at 156 and I want to get to 1K. Okay, hashtag road to 1K. Thank you. Bye.